In this podcast, I'm going to talk about who I think will end up with the most singles Grand Slam titles in men's tennis. And of course, a lot's happened in the last few months. Just a few weeks ago, Rafael Nadal defeated Novak Djokovic and in the process tied Roger Federer for the all-time lead at 20 titles. Of course, I'm talking about men's singles Grand Slam titles here. And that was, of course, very, very important in terms of history. Now, 10 years ago, who would have thought anybody would have caught Roger Federer? I mean, I find that amazing. I think 10 years ago, I sort of thought Roger Federer would end up with 25 or even 30 titles. That's the way it was moving. But, of course, Nadal had already pretty much arrived by that point. And, of course, we saw the arrival of Novak Djokovic. And between them, Nadal and Djokovic, they have 37 titles. Pretty amazing stuff. And between all three of them, 57 titles. So just total domination over the last 15 years. We may never see anything like this again where three players are just so dominant. And truly, these are historic times in the history of men's tennis. A lot can happen in the next 12 to 24 months. And so that's what I want to talk about. I mean, I think that's going to be key in terms of this race because neither of these three are getting any younger. Nadal now is in his mid-30s. Djokovic is getting there. I think he's a year younger, but, obviously he's not getting any younger either. So a lot's going to happen over the next 24 months. And I'm going to start talking about next year, 2021, which really should be a pivotal year. Now, if we take a look at the Australian Open in 2021, I think Novak Djokovic is going to be the huge favorite there. Well, I don't want to say huge favorite, but a heavy favorite. That's obviously his favorite surface. He's won 8 titles there. And last year, Dominic Thiem took him, I believe it was to 5 sets. And actually at different points in that match, Dominic Thiem was bowling Djokovic around. I mean, he literally was dominating the play for different stretches and really sort of had Djokovic out of rhythm, which is hard to do at the Australian Open. As I said, that's Djokovic's favorite tournament. So the two threats there are going to be Dominic Thiem and Rafael Nadal. Now, Nadal really wants to get that double at the Australian Open. That's the only Grand Slam he only has one title of. So you can imagine he'll be motivated to win that. And I think, you really can't count him out, especially the way he played at the French Open. Now, I know some people say, well, that was on the clay surface. But no, he dominated Djokovic like Djokovic has not been dominated in a long, long time. For Djokovic not to win a single game in the first set is truly amazing. So you have to wonder if some of that will carry over into the Australian Open. That being said, though, obviously Djokovic is going to be the favorite. Now, Federer, he's announced, in fact, he gave us an update yesterday saying that the healing process is going pretty good. He's playing pain-free, and he looks all set to return for the Australian Open in 2021, which is really great news. That's great news. I mean, tennis really needs Roger Federer. And I think he also mentioned he's got to get his stamina up, but still, you have to look at him as an outside favorite here. This is going to be very difficult. He hasn't played, competitive tennis in 9 months. It's been a long time. So, it's one thing to get your stamina back and he's playing pain-free, but it's another thing to be match ready. So you have to almost look at this as a warm-up tournament. So, but that being said, he'll still be a top 5 seed, and I wouldn't put it past Roger to make it to the semifinals. I mean, that certainly could happen. And then, of course, some outsiders looking in. You have to think about Zverev. He's always going to be a threat here. And you have to also start to think about Tsitsipas and his development. He could be a threat here as well. And on the outside looking into is Sinner. Now, we'll see. He could be the big wild card this year. I mean, he looked great in the French Open and played well, very well against Rafael Nadal. Probably he was better against Nadal than Djokovic was. So it'll be really interesting to see Jannik Sinner's progression this year. Now, if we move to the French Open, obviously Rafael Nadal is going to be the heavy favorite here. And he won in conditions a lot of people didn't think he'd win in. And mainly that's because we heard all about his forehand and it wouldn't be bouncing as high. I think 3 inches lower is what they said. And so that was going to give Djokovic a chance to tee off with his two-hand backhand. That's why Djokovic was predicted in the 2020 French Open, because a lot of people felt, and probably rightfully so, I can understand. I mean, that two-hand backhand is probably the best in the history of tennis. So I can understand why they were predicting Djokovic, but that was the main reason. He was going to have a chance to hit that two-handed backhand cleanly because the ball just wasn't bouncing as high. So now that the temperatures are going to be up in the French Open, you would have to figure he's going to have less of a chance. The ball will be bouncing 3 inches taller, and you'll have more spin on it. But, I mean, Nadal proved that really you can't pick against him at the French Open. All the tennis experts were wrong, and really you can't predict anyone else unless Nadal gives us a reason to. In other words, he loses. And until he loses, well, we can have that discussion when he loses, but until then, it's going to be hard to predict against Nadal for the next couple years at the French Open. That's going to be a really difficult prediction, at least for me to make, until we're proven otherwise. That being said, the two threats here will be obviously Djokovic and Dominic Thiem. 2 out of the last 3 years, he's made the French Open final, and he actually took a set in the 2019 final against Nadal. So obviously he's a threat here as well. But that being said, I do see Nadal winning yet another French Open. 14. Amazing stuff. If you think about that for a moment, if he gets that 14th French Open title, that ties Pete Sampras, who you can see here on the list. That'll give him 14. He'll tie Pete Sampras' overall total. I mean, that's just amazing stuff. Who would have thought that? Now, the big question will be, will Roger Federer play in the French Open? Now, Roger Federer's chances at the French Open, that's probably, of all the 4 slams, that's the least likely one he will win. I mean, it's never been his favorite service, and you really have to wonder if he will even go there. He hasn't announced for it yet. We'll see, but I tend to think he's probably going to skip that to prepare for Wimbledon, which obviously is going to be his best chance. So he probably wants to prepare for the grass court season as well as keep his energy levels intact and his fitness as well. Everybody knows what a grind these 2-week tournaments are. I mean, you're playing every other day. Okay, so on to Wimbledon. Good time to transition to Wimbledon. Now, as I said, Roger Federer, the greatest grass court player ever, will be there, and he'll be going up against the current best grass court player in the world, and Djokovic. You definitely could say that. So again, Djokovic will be the favorite here, but Roger Federer, he has so many intangibles going, and I think if there's one last great shot that Federer has to win a Grand Slam, it'll be the 2021 Wimbledon. That, I believe, will be his last great shot to win a major. So what does he have to do? Well, as I talked about, his energy levels will be very critical here. And a lot was made about Nadal in the last French Open, this one a few weeks ago, about how he only had 13 hours play time against Djokovic. And that had a huge factor in terms of his energy levels. He never dropped a set. And I think in order for Roger Federer to have a chance to win this, he's going to have to sort of do the same thing. Those early matches will be really critical. He can't afford to have a 5-hour, 5-set match early on. He's got to breeze through those and get through those as quick as possible, because he's going to need all the energy and fitness in the semifinal and final if he makes it. Because you have to imagine if he's on the other side of the draw against Djokovic and it's a rematch between Djokovic and Federer, you have to imagine that's going to go 5 sets. This won't be a 3-set deal the way it was in the French Open. Djokovic plays much better on the grass. So you have to imagine that's going to go 5 sets. And so Roger Federer is going to need all of his energy and fitness to defeat Djokovic. So not only does he have to get through those early matches pretty quick, I think he also has to, if we look at it from a set level, let's say he's up 5-1 in a set, but he's down 40-love in the current game. Does he go all out and try to, even that up and possibly win the game, or does he sort of surrender the game and try to close out the set? And I think those are discussions he's going to need to have with his coach. Obviously, they'll have a strategy, but, he's going to really have to think about how he can utilize his energy in terms of maximum efficiency. So Federer has all the intangibles. He knows every inch of those grounds, the crowd. He's the most popular player in the history of tennis. I don't think anybody has been more popular than Roger Federer. So the crowd will be behind him big time. And, so all the intangibles will be on his side. We'll see. But like I said, I think this is his last great chance to win a major. And I don't think he's coming back to say hi to everybody. I think he thinks he really has a good chance to win this. And why not? It was in 2019, he had 2 match points on Djokovic. So this will definitely be very compelling to see what happens. And of course, Nadal is a favorite here. He's, routinely makes the quarterfinals and semifinals here. He's won 2 Wimbledons. He's proven he can win on grass. And you never count out Nadal. I don't care what the surface is. But that being said, he's probably on the outside looking in. The big question mark for me at the 2021 Wimbledon is how Tsitsipas does and Thiem and Zverev. Now, they have not done well at Wimbledon. It's really the only surface that the younger generation players have not really done well. I don't even know. I have to look it up. I don't think they've even made it to the quarterfinals. Or if they have, they definitely have. None of them have made it to the semifinals. So it'll be interesting to see if one of them makes a move this year. And I could see that happening. We may see one of them do really well at Wimbledon. And that is sort of, will be interesting if that happens. Okay, so now moving on to the U.S. Open. This may be the most wide open of all. Of all the tournaments, I think this could be the most wide open. You have Djokovic, who's done extremely well here in the past. You have Federer, who's done well here, and same thing with Nadal. All of them have won multiple times here. Nadal just won it in 2019. He would have been the defending champion, but of course he skipped. And then, of course, Dominic Thiem finally had a breakthrough and won here. Now, I know that Nadal skipped it wisely to focus on the French Open. Djokovic defaulted out, and Federer was injured. But still, that being said, he got that major under his belt, and all of these players are capable of winning this. That being said, you still have to see, unless things change in the next 12 months, you have to see Djokovic being the favorite here. But it will be interesting to see what happens. Okay, so now what you came for, my final predictions, and here they are. And keep in mind, these are my most conservative predictions. I want to make that ironclad clear right now. These are my most conservative predictions. They could easily, Nadal and Djokovic could easily go well past this. But the way I see it right now, and again, conservatively, I see Nadal winning the next 2 French Opens. And I think that's going to be still, over the next 24 months, it's going to be difficult for anybody to break through there. I still see him having 2 more French Opens and possibly even another U.S. Open or an Australian Open. And that could definitely happen. So I think he's going to end up at 23. That's my conservative estimate. But again, he could dominate the French Open with the fitness level he's in. And if he stays injury-free, he could easily win 4 more. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So again, this is my conservative estimate. Novak Djokovic, I think he will win 4 to 5 more majors, conservatively speaking. I think he'll get 4 to 5 more and end up at 22. And again, I think in terms of Djokovic, 2021 is going to be a huge year. Now, let's say he has an unbelievable year and gets 3 out of the 4 majors. He just blows it out, gets 3 majors. I think this discussion changes quite a bit. I think I might come back and do another podcast and say he's probably going to pass Nadal. Isn't that weird how we're saying he's probably going to pass Nadal, not Federer? Very strange. But I think the next 3, if he wins 3 majors, he's right back in the discussion for the all-time lead. And he's still going to end up very close. Even if you look at my conservative estimates, I think he's going to end up very close. Now, if he only wins 1 major, I think that gets more and more difficult. But we'll see. So this year's even, probably no other player is this more critical for than Djokovic. This is really a critical year for him. And let's just say I'm right, and he finishes 1 behind Nadal or tied. It's going to be close. You think he's going to take a look back at that 2020 U.S. Open just a few months ago, back in September? You think he's going to take a look at that and kick himself? And you have to wonder if that does have an impact. Yeah, I think he will not only take a look at it, he'll just, to get defaulted out of a major is very hard. It doesn't happen a lot. And let alone to the top seed on the men's side. That just does not happen. Now, in my opinion, I believe it was a little bit harsh on Djokovic to kick him out of the tournament. That's just my opinion. it's too bad they couldn't have come up with something else, like maybe take away a set from him or a set and a half, whatever. That would have been, to me, the more appropriate punishment. But I also fully understand why they kicked him out. I mean, that's the rule. And he injured somebody in anger, and that's the rule. So I get it, why they kicked him out. It's just too bad that, I don't think he meant it. But again, and she turned out to be okay, by the way. But again, a rule's a rule. And he violated it, so I perfectly understand. But I think it's just too bad. I wish they could have come up with some other method. That being said, it will be interesting to see if that tournament, getting defaulted out of that U.S. Open, costs him the all-time lead. And it just, like I said, it rarely happens. I mean, the last major one that I remember was McEnroe in the 1990 Australian Open, and he wasn't even the top seed there, but he was playing well. And a lot of people actually think today that McEnroe could have won that tournament. I mean, he very well could have won that tournament had he not been defaulted out. All right, well, I will do another podcast before the Australian Open starts. It's going to be a fantastic year. I'm so happy we're going to get Federer back. It certainly looks like it. He's great for tennis. Tennis needs him, probably more than he needs tennis, but it's going to be great to have him back. And let's just enjoy this while it lasts. It's not going to last a whole lot longer, but we got some great tennis, and we got the big three around for at least another year. Let's hope Federer goes for 2 more years. I'm hoping he plays into his, to age 40. We'll see, though. Okay, thanks as always for listening.